What's going on, everybody? It's TripleCrown24 back today, and this was not the video I was planning on putting out today, but it is the video that is getting put out. So, um, some of you will know this from private conversations. Some of you will probably guess what's going on from the title and the background of this video. And if not, then you'll know here in a second. But I have struggled for weeks to kind of find the words to say and think about how I was going to approach this video, but it was something that I felt needed to be said. And I'll just say it. I am no longer collecting Miguel Cabrera cards in the way that I once was, and I have been selling off pieces of my collection. So we'll just get that out there, and that's the hardest part uh, is now behind me, so I can kind of get into the reasons why I'm not. Um, there's a couple reasons I'm doing this, and the number one, I will say I'm not doing this because this is going to shake the landscape of the hobby. Um, I really don't think that this impacts anyone but myself unless you collect Miguel Cabrera and you end up getting some of the cards off me. Um, but other than that, it really is inconsequential to a large number of people. And now that I say that out loud, some of my concerns and worries seem perhaps a little bit overplayed in my head, just kind of dwelling on this for several weeks now. But I kind of want to walk through this. To give you an idea, really since the start of last year in 2021, Happy New Year, by the way, I have started to lose a bit of the passion I had for this. I guess you can call it super collecting behavior or player collecting behavior, whichever term that you want to use. This idea that I want to pick up every Miguel Cabrera card possible. And that idea has almost turned into an identity and a reputation that precedes me. I am, in some people's eyes, the Miggy card guy. Um, and I have people who had been reaching out to me pretty much daily asking me if I needed this card. I get tagged on Facebook or Twitter and Blowout and all those places and Instagram with people looking out for me if they see something rare and they tell me, "Oh, did you see this?" And I've gotten some leads on some pretty awesome cards solely from people doing that. And some people have opened my eyes to some cards where I got some really good deals on them too, or they just gifted them to me. And that was, all those things I am extremely grateful for. And it just shows some of my favorite parts of the hobby. But around the release of Series 1 last year, one of the things that really, I guess, was one of the things that showed me the writing on the wall, in addition to just prices being absolutely bonkers on a lot of cards, was the increased pack odds and the increased cost of wax, plus the lack of availability of wax at the retail side. In my area, we're kind of the last to know, or the last place for things to happen. Usually things start out on the coast and then they work their way into the Midwest. Well, this is where trends kind of go to die. And so the retail shutdown, I guess you could call it, didn't really happen in my area until several weeks, if not months, after it did in certain places, or the people clearing the shelves mentality. That did not happen for quite some time here. In addition to that, the retail wax returning to shelves. My Walmart, Target, and Meijer don't really look like yours. I'll tell you that. My Walgreens also do not look like yours in terms of the wax that I see available through posts on Twitter and Facebook and all these different places, or people talking about it here on YouTube. Whatever the case may be, it does not look like that. But that aside, that part of it didn't affect me as much as the increased odds and increased price means that less of the wax was getting ripped because people didn't think it was worth it or they couldn't afford it. And increased pack odds means that it's tougher to pull certain parallels, making it in turn exponentially tougher to pull specific parallels of specific players. And on top of that, even if those cards are surfaced out of the packs, you have to have someone who is motivated to sell them. And then on top of that, you have to have someone who is motivated to sell them at a price I'm willing to pay. And when I put it like that, it may seem like it's this really difficult formula where nothing is ever available. And perhaps that's making it a little bit too extreme, but it may not be too far off. So for example, I saw a handful of these Memorial Day camos in 2020 Series 1 when it came out, and I own 2 of them. There's only been 3 years of these so far. I never paid more than $25 for one, and I don't think I had seen one listed for more than $50 prior to 2021. Well, when 2021 came out, it took me weeks to even find one listed for sale, which is generally not a good sign. With a lot of these new releases, as a player collector, you have to get on the parallels right away because people move on so quickly in the hobby of new products now that a week later, people are already looking on to the next thing. And they're not as incentivized to rip that wax unless there is some real chase in there. Or it's at a price that is affordable and more of a budget option than maybe some of the other products out there. So I only saw 2 Memorial Day camos, and to this day I've only seen 2 of the 25 listed for sale, neither of which was under $100 at any point in time, which is difficult to justify when you're used to paying $20 to $25 each. And even on the smaller cards, like for example, I'm seeing saw the same thing with the gold refractors and the orange refractors in chrome, where they're going for over $100 upon release. But even certain prism parallels that are numbered out of like 50 or 60, they're not even MLB licensed, going for 15, 20 bucks when I'm used to maybe paying $5. And you may say, well, what's the big difference between $5 and $15? And fair point. But when you consider the volume that I'm working with here, I'm talking nearly 3,200 cards, unique cards at my peak. You multiply that out at a $10 difference at a time, and things really start to add up very quickly. And a lot of what I was needing to add for older products as well, those cards just were not getting listed because people can't really afford to go back and open the older wax because all of it has shot up. And a lot of it, I don't even know what you could really even find in those boxes to justify opening them for what they would command on the secondary market sealed. So when you have a lack of packs being open and a lack of supply, with an increased demand, Miggy getting more interest because of the 30,000 hit that he should obtain here to start the 2022 season when that gets on the ground, and of course the 500th home run, easy for me to say, last year, really made things difficult in terms of competition. Getting outbid so many times, getting that dreaded gray banner on eBay, you did not win this auction, or getting an alert that my snipe was not enough. Sometimes my name doesn't even appear in the auction because my snipe wasn't even good enough at the time that it was scheduled to go off. So I was never really into the card to begin with. So the increased prices caused some frustration with me. And then it kind of became more so a routine in picking up cards for the sake of accumulating, or for the sake of keeping up with the Joneses and kind of living up to this reputation as the Miggy guy and picking up anything that was offered to me just because I could at the time, or because I didn't have it and I felt obligated to go out and get it, that it felt weird to turn something down, which was a very unhealthy mindset. Because a lot of the cards, I wasn't getting that excitement. For example, here, I passed the 100 autograph mark, and it used to be picking up a Miggy autograph when I first started collecting him in the way that I was a big deal. That was a big milestone. And then it kind of got to the point where there would be times where I'd get multiple autographs in the mail on the same day, and it just wasn't as special for me anymore. It had to be a low number autograph. That's part of the signs of addiction too, where you're what used to be and give you that euphoric feeling no longer gives you that. And you see there, that's a base auto from 2007 Bowman's Best. It is a sticker auto. Sticker autos don't bother me too much, although I do have a great appreciation for the on-card stuff, of course. But I mean, a card like that, it wouldn't really move the needle for me anymore. And when you reach 100 autographs, how many autographs of a single player do you really need? And that answer is different for everyone, of course. But for me, I just felt like it wasn't necessary to keep adding those in. So time continues to progress, and as I move into my new office and kind of expand the business, I don't even really have time to open my mail anymore. Literally, I have packages from eBay just sitting in stacks and stacks, unintentionally, but it's just I work all day dealing with cards. I'm constantly answering texts and emails from eBay and other customers from the eBay store, and putting up new cards, talking with friends about cards. And really the last thing I wanted to do was to spend even more time, the remainder of my free time, I should say, on strictly the hobby. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to go cold turkey and not, once I leave, I never want to see anything about the hobby until I go back in. No, that's not it at all, because I really do love what I do, and I really do love the hobby. And I say that candidly. I'm not, my actions here may not seem like it, or it may seem like I have some kind of resentment, and I don't at all. I want to make that clear. But it was just at a point where, what's the point really if it's just going to sit in stacks and I'm not even opening this stuff up? I'm paying real money to buy these cards just for them to sit in a stack or sit in a box that I don't have the time to go through, or I just don't have the motivation to go through. And part of that too, thinking about it, is that when I win that card, that's a card that no other collector will be able to obtain. That's one less on the market. If it's a one-of-one, that means that's totally out of play for everyone else. And to me, one of the big things in my store is being able to make someone's day, or enhancing someone's collection, enhancing their collecting experience, the whole elevate your hobby tagline that TripleCrown24 Sports Cards has. And to be able to put these cards into people's collections that will be able to appreciate them more and help them build their collections, which has already happened a couple of times through this process of downsizing, that has given me a lot of joy, and it gives some of the cards, I guess, new life in a sense. That might sound ridiculous. It's just, it definitely helps soften maybe some of the pain or some of the uneasiness that I have felt with this process. So this kind of all culminated about a month ago when I ran into a situation where I had some unexpected bills come up, and a couple weeks after that I had another series of unexpected bills come up, and without hurting the growth of my business or my own personal growth and personal financial situation, the best option for me was to move on from some of these cards and to put them up. And it does definitely help that a lot of them I purchased before the hobby boom. I purchased a lot of these in 2018 and 19, and as I'm sure everyone's aware, it's a much different game now. A lot of these are worth, in some cases, 10 times as much as what I paid for them. And those kind of seeing those results, definitely that was never my intention when I bought them, of course, but seeing that has made this a little bit easier to stomach. There are still a lot of challenges I've had with it. For example, like this card right here. It's my 2018 foil fractor from Bowman Platinum. And I have a story behind this card. It's just, and I think it's really cool. I do have the whole rainbow for this. So parting with it has been very challenging for me. And I kind of go through and I've told myself I'm going to list 10 cards at a time. So that's what I've been doing. Or I'm going to focus on one Z folio. And that's really helped me kind of dip my toes into the water to prevent it from being like a big shock or be too much of a big change in my life all at once. Because this is something that I put a lot of time into, and it's something that I really care about. So that may sound ridiculous to some people, and I wouldn't expect you to really understand what this would be like unless you had been in a similar position. I'm sure there's some people out there who will definitely empathize with this, or I'm sure everyone will at least be able to relate in some sense to what I'm saying here. What also softens the blow is that I'm not finished with collecting Miggy. I've just decided to take a new approach. So the new approach that I'm taking now is there are 2 criteria for me to keep cards at this point. Number 1 is that if it's a gift, it is not going anywhere. So I have a little list that I've kept track since the very first time I got a care package that had a Cabrera card in it. And I have that written down. So those cards, I also usually would put like a little, one of those little post-it tabs on the back of the penny sleeve with a little note that said who it was from. So I have that, and I'll be able to kind of just keep those cards there. So if it was a gift, it's not going anywhere. The second part, I also wouldn't feel right about moving anything that was a gift. So I will not do that. If I'm no longer walking the earth, that's the only time that those cards will leave my collection. The second part of it is I'm going to keep only the top 24 cards. You might think, well, that's an odd number, of course. I am TripleCrown24. Miggy's number is 24. Keep the top 24. Just kind of works. That was something that was suggested to me by a very dear friend when I was first really seriously considering this. And I thought it was a good idea, and those who I've spoken to about it privately, one-on-one since, agreed that they thought it was a good thing to try out. There are 2 cards right now in my top 24 that are gifts that when they move out of the top 24, if they move out of the top 24, I will still keep them. But that's just keeping myself honest. I don't want to just move 2 other cards in, because that way I can keep 2 extra cards. And I'm trying to keep it fair to myself and really get a true top 24. And that's not necessarily the most valuable cards, because I've sold some cards that would be considered in the top 24 in terms of value at the peak of my collection, if you want to go back and look at it that way. I mean, value definitely does play a part into it, but it's kind of some of the coolest cards that I have, some of the rarest stuff that I have, some of my favorites. So it's a little mix of everything. There's no clear criteria. It's just my personal top 24. Now, in the future, if I ever want to replace them, which I do have some things on my bucket list, my rule is that I will have to move something out of the top 24 to basically get something new in, which will be, I think it will make me really consider purchases before I make them. Really consider if I want specific cards, and kind of, I guess, really prioritizing what is important to me as a collector. So that's what I'm doing moving forward. What has kind of held me back, you might ask, as we were near the 20-minute mark, from telling you this before? Because it seems like I've really had no issue telling you about this. And the biggest issue was fearing what people would think. The fact that I have a financial obligation, actually multiple financial obligations to handle now, definitely aids in this, because, well, this makes sense to me. And if someone gets upset that I'm selling my collection because of personal finances, I don't know what to tell you, because it's I got to do what's best for me. I got to be able to put food on the table and all that. I'm going to be fine. Also, I don't want to worry anyone with this. And like I said, me selling my collection doesn't shake the hobby landscape, or it will never be the same. I really don't think it impacts anyone unless you are looking to buy one of these Cabrera cards I have. It really does not impact anyone. And that's why I thought it was a little, now thinking about it, that I thought it was crazy that people would be upset with me about this. But I guess some of the ways that I've been labeled a true collector by people in the past, or a hardcore collector, and maybe you can't necessarily say that anymore, but those titles to begin with, I try not to put labels on people. And I personally myself don't really like to be labeled in a sense, or kind of put in that box, because I think it just kind of shuts off certain parts of my personality, my character, my interests, takes away kind of that dimension to a person, just that depth. So I do, that's something that, what's actually one of my goals for 2022, is to not do as much labeling or trying to put things in boxes and put them in a, try to narrow things down as much. But that's more of a philosophical journey. We don't need to get into all of that. But just kind of, and having this conversation, of course, pretty much anytime anyone brings up something Miggy related, now it's you got to go through the same story kind of 100 different times with people, and just kind of thinking like, well, what are they going to say about this? Is this going to impact my relationship with them? And I was reassured by a couple people of this, and I do agree with it. It makes a lot of sense to me that anyone who would not be my friend because I don't collect Miguel Cabrera cards in a super collector or super player collector fashion probably wasn't really a friend to begin with. And that's, fair enough. I think there are more important things in life than just which baseball cards you collect. But I just kind of wanted to share this little personal journey of mine and get this off my chest. And I do feel better saying this now. I'm probably going to be a little nervous putting out this video. I may not be ready to reply to comments right away on it too. And again, I know that might sound ridiculous, but again, that's if you were in my shoes, you might be able to understand a bit better why I feel this way and why I have hesitations about this. But yeah, that's it for today. I do appreciate you, especially if you stayed till the end and listened to what I had to say today. I'll be back tomorrow with a new episode of the podcast. Really looking forward to it. We'll be talking about Juan Soto with Ed Wesker-Griff. It was a really fun episode that we recorded earlier this week, so it will be a good time. Until then, take care, stay safe, be kind.